The real Bitcoin bull run hasn't even started. We are hovering around the 75k range measured in US dollar shitcoins. But if you measure Bitcoin in something more tangible like gold, the whole story is very different. And so today with my guest Sourcenode, I will dive into measuring the price of Bitcoin in something more tangible like gold and what you can actually read from that and why I personally believe the Bitcoin bull run hasn't even slightly started yet. There is so much currently going on in the Bitcoin sphere. I'm really excited to talk with you and see where we end up. But I think the first thing that you brought up was the Jeff Booth versus Cypherdean thing that you told me. What is this all about?
Right. Yeah. So I don't know if the two have even talked. So there is not really a Jeff Booth versus Cypherdean thing. But in my mind, there was, because I respect both of them a lot. I've been following them for years. They say a lot of things that I agree with. And Cypherdean has pretty consistently maintained the message that price is very important. In fact, I think I've heard him say, and don't quote me, I'm not quoting Cypherdean, but I'm pretty sure I heard him say, price is the only thing that matters. And from an economic perspective, I understand what he's talking about. This is what everybody's paying attention to. The biggest billboard for Bitcoin, and the reason nobody's paying attention now, largely, is because the price is low, relatively speaking. And then on the flip side, we have Jeff Booth, who's saying people who price Bitcoin in dollars are part of the problem. And both statements are true in a sense, but I was really experiencing a lot of cognitive dissonance because I couldn't put the two pieces together. And these are both guys that I respect. I think they're both right, but I think there's something missing, right? And in Jeff Booth's case in particular, I see people suffering in the fiat matrix every day, Bitcoiners and otherwise, people who were really counting on Bitcoin to help them get out of this. And they're not seeing Bitcoin as a solution, in part because it's not performing the way it did the first 10 years, we'll say. The last 4 or 5 years, it hasn't been doing that. And this has forced a lot of people into a very existential reconsideration of what Bitcoin represents to them. Some people have dropped out, but a lot of people have doubled down and realized, no, I just need to stack harder. I need to work harder. I need to continue to lower my time preference. And I think that's the right answer. That certainly has been the right answer for me personally. But the middle ground that I found between these two statements, which seem like they're completely opposed to each other, is Jeff Booth is correct. We should not be measuring Bitcoin in dollars because dollars are infinitely inflatable. They're printed to infinity, and the dollar has no bottom. So it doesn't make any sense to measure something finite in something that's infinite. But we still need NGU. Without NGU, Bitcoin isn't Bitcoin anymore. And so what I started doing before I even really noticed I was doing it was I was measuring Bitcoin primarily in gold and not in dollars. And if you want to pull up that first chart that I sent you, the first one we talked about last time, yeah, so this is what I was doing, and I hadn't even quite reached this epiphany. So first of all, I will acknowledge that I was wrong. I'll acknowledge that I was wrong about my price prediction. Well, okay, no. I said that we might reach 50 ounces per Bitcoin within the next year. And that hasn't played out yet. But at this moment, I don't think that's a realistic expectation. And I'll explain why. So first of all, yeah, I drew a triangle, full degen, zodiacs for men. And then that triangle broke. And so I drew another line because that's what you do when you're doing charts. And so if you want to pull up the next chart, this is the second line I drew. It's a longer line, so that makes me feel better. It has a better trend. And it's not, it's not perfect. You can see that it broke through in several instances, but in those moments when it broke through, there were incredible buying opportunities relative to gold. the really devastating part about this chart is that you can see that we haven't made a lot. Like, you just can tell how little progress we've made in terms of opportunity cost. And Bitcoiners love to talk about opportunity cost. And so I would encourage people not to shy away from the reality that we're living in, right? Which is that the what was it in fiat terms? It was 126,000, and the previous all-time high was like 67,000 or something, and they were almost the same in gold terms. So that's incredibly painful, right? But it's important to see that. And what I see here with this chart, it actually tells me a story. The fiat chart is noisy. It's like, I don't know what's going on, you know? You can try to guess and draw support lines and whatever. And I'm not a huge chart person. I'm not watching the price every day. In fact, I don't know what the price is right now. I haven't looked at it in like a week, but um, the gold price, like this is a chart I just made. So the gold price is 15.68 ounces. Over time, the Bitcoin price in gold has reached around 35 ounces and then fallen. And it's done that, you can see, 5 times here. And interestingly, 35 ounces is right around 1 kilogram. So that is Bitcoin trying to break through the 1 kilogram support line, which has been running for almost 10 years, right? I think that that's interesting. That tells me an interesting story about hard money versus hard money. And I don't have to think about fiat in this equation at all. It's like, yeah, fiat is garbage. It's stupid. It's out the window. I only consider it when I have to make conversions, in the same way that I consider Thai baht when I go to Thailand, and I consider euros when I go to Europe, and I consider yen when I go to Japan. I make the same sort of conversion all the time when I'm buying things in dollars, but really I am living on a Bitcoin standard, and I measure everything in Bitcoin. But I need to measure it relative to something that actually matters. Houses matter. Gold matters in a historical sense. There's a lot of Bitcoiners think that gold is stupid, it's a shiny rock and whatever. They crushed us last year. So I think it's important to acknowledge that we have a lot to learn about network effects and about history and about perception, right? And so that's what I see in this chart. And so I just wanted to bring that up as like an alternative to looking at charts in dollars, which like I said, I barely ever do that anymore. And I'm looking at like the 10, 15-year chart in gold.
That's crazy. Yeah, like the for me it's crazy. I mean, at the one hand, because I want to address this like pricing things in gold, because it sounds for us very logical, and I like it more than the pricing Bitcoin in something else, because it's more, how do I say it? It's more grounded. It's less. It has less of the effect of the inflation in it. So if you, for example, take Bitcoin measured in Venezuelan dollars, it's a different chart versus gold versus even US dollars or versus euros. And so what you measure Bitcoin in is very important. It's not like it does matter in what you measure it in. If you measure it in a very weak fiat currency, it's bad, and it's better to measure it in a stronger fiat currency, and it's even better to measure it in something like gold. I mean, the best case would be to measure it in a way where we can just cancel out the purchasing power loss, or like the inflation or the debasement. I don't know if there's like a perfect way to do it. Obviously, gold is not a perfect way to do it, but it's a good way to do it. So I just want to do like give that extra perspective, because it's very important in what we measure Bitcoin in.
Right. Yeah. I mean, most people, basically almost everybody's still living in the fiat matrix to one degree or another, either because their expenses are measured in fiat, or their family or their friends or whatever it might be. And it is a perceptual drain. I mean, it is a cognitive drain. And I think that's what Jeff was getting at, is saying, if you're thinking in dollars, you're giving power to that system. And it's true. I do everything I can just to extricate myself from that system. And at the same time, I live in it every day. So it's complicated, but perceptually, I see fiat as kind of a short run experiment that existed between gold and Bitcoin. And really, in the US at least, it's been operating for 50 years, 55 years. It's not that long. Bitcoin's 17 years old, right? So we're coming up on the coattails of how, of fiat. And fiat, if you want to pull up the M2 chart, is you can see the exponential curve. I mean, it's squashed because I took this screenshot on my phone. If you look at it on a larger screen, it's a little bit more pulled out, but you can see the exponential trend. It's not, there was a major disruption in that exponential trend. As you can see here at the top, I just posted something on Nostr that said, the last 5 years of economic policy or monetary policy, is really strange in the context of the last 50. It's easy to forget how strange it is that we did this, and that they were able to tighten that hard for that long. I think a lot of Bitcoiners, including a lot of guys that I listen to, like Preston Pish, were expecting, things to break when they did that. And they managed to do it without breaking the system in a catastrophic way. So the soft landing, as Jerome was calling it, was achieved. And I can give credit where it's due. I mean, obviously it made millions of people suffer even more. It's terrible, and I know the implications downstream, but they did achieve their goal up to this point. They extended their scam for another 5 years without breaking anything catastrophic. And it's kind of impressive in a way, how much control they have over the financial markets. I believe personally that it is 80 to 90% perception. It's like almost entirely based around what people think. And so that's really why I make a point to not think in terms of dollars and not allow that to kind of trap my consciousness.
But it's so hard. Like it's super. Like I track since forever my net worth, and obviously I started with euros because I started tracking my net worth before I even heard about the word Bitcoin. And what I did now is, which is really cool, I have a column with net worth in euros, and then next to it I make the same column based on Bitcoin. And you can do this even starting later, because with like all those nice tools, you can get the Bitcoin price from a specific date, and you can bring the date up. And for example, this bear market, my net worth was like cut in half, so roughly like that. But actually, if you look at the net worth priced in Bitcoin, it was going up nicely. It's like a nice linear progression. And I'm not saying that to like make me feel bad, because obviously talking to Robin in, I don't know, August 2025, he was a wealthier man, also in purchasing power, than he is like right now in May 2026, April 2026. Like obviously that's true. It's not, I don't want to gaslight myself and like, oh, I'm doing amazing. But I have a very long time preference. I don't need money right now or like yesterday. I want to build. I hate that term generational wealth, because it's like a overused term, but I want to create something long term. I want to create something big and substantial. And so I have to look out 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, even 50 years, 60 years down the line. And so do I like it that I get a higher number of Satoshis? Yeah, absolutely. Like 100%. But yeah, obviously, I got a lot more poor in the last few months.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think it's really such a weak move to tell people basically at the bottom of the market not to think in dollars. It's like, oh yeah, just don't pay attention to the dollars. Well, we're getting creamed. Like if we're looking at gold, dollars, and Bitcoin as different teams, in a sporting event, it's like we're getting destroyed right now, or we were. We're kind of coming back now, I guess. But I'm here for it, right? Like I'm not a tourist. I'm in it for the long haul, and I know the fundamentals, right? So it's like not about the price in the short term. Like you said, your time preference is low. But that leads into the next thing I want to talk about really well, because you were talking about measuring your net worth in Bitcoin terms. So I'm in the process of writing a book, as I mentioned. And one of the portions of that book is what I'm calling the Accumulation Apex. It's very similar. I mean, it's probably the same exact thing that American HODL's talking about with the BitLife crisis, but the BitLife crisis sounds like you're going to buy like a Maserati and drive around with a toupee. So the Accumulation Apex to me is a little bit more positive. But basically what it is like a second plateau that Bitcoiners reach. The first one is understanding the importance of Bitcoin, starting to study Bitcoin, starting to realize that you'd rather have Bitcoin than dollars. And in that moment, your whole incentive structure shifts, right? Everybody has these, their time preference starts to lower. They start focusing more on things that are important in the long run. And that's tremendous. But at the same time, in that situation, you're still stuck in the fiat matrix. You're still earning fiat to buy more Bitcoin. You're still in the place of accumulation towards the point where it's like, do I have enough? Do I have enough? Do I have enough? Do I have enough? And then at a certain point, if you continue to do that, you will reach a place where it doesn't really matter what you do on the day to day. You really can't increase your Bitcoin net worth anymore. You can increase it marginally, maybe with like thousands of sats, per day or more. I mean, it depends on your earning potential, but it also more so, it depends on your ethics, right? Because it's like, yeah, I could probably double my stack. What would I have to do that? Steal. Like I'd have to scam people. And a lot of Bitcoiners, unfortunately, a lot of the guys that I've been following since 2017 or whatever, they seem to be falling into that. I'm seeing pump and dump treasury companies and people that are shilling products and building out products that are not really Bitcoin centric. And it's disappointing. I mean, I would prefer to see a Galt's Gulch kind of activity, which is I literally will not sell you what I'm offering unless you pay me in Bitcoin, and then make sure that your product offering is the best in the market. Like that would be the probably a better strategy and more ethical, in my opinion. But when reaching the second plateau, this accumulation apex, the incentives shift again. It's not I need to earn more all the time. I need to earn more fiat and buy more Bitcoin. It's rather I want to do everything I can to support Bitcoin. Like I want to increase the network effects. I want to make it easier to use. I want to support other Bitcoiners in their processes and projects so that the whole network benefits from that. And we all benefit from that. And so it's like a totally different way of measuring ROI. And I'm trying to conceptualize it right now, but it's still kind of early days in that process.
It's an interesting point that you brought up, because it's also something that I've noticed a lot of OGs, and not all of them, like there's a lot of them that also haven't done that, but there are a lot of OGs that started shilling weird things. I just call it weird shit. It's like shit coins or like products involved with shit coins, or like something, or some JPEGs on top of Bitcoin, like all those things where I'm like, I don't know, like you're a free human being. I don't care what you do and how you convince people to take the money. I believe as much as possible in a free market. I just wouldn't do it, and I just like find it weird that you do it, especially seeing how long you have been in Bitcoin. I mean, don't you have a good enough stack that you can live and not scam people? That's all. Like people that are in Bitcoin since it's like under $1,000, and now they are trying to scam people. I mean, you made a like 700x or something like that on your money. You should have a good amount that you don't need to scam people. You can build like a legit business.
Yeah, you would hope so, right? And I should clarify. It's probably a minority. I'm thinking about a few people in particular, but a lot of them have just kind of quietly gone off into the sunset. But yeah, I don't know. It comes down to that. I think about that scene from Breaking Bad where they're standing in front of the huge cache, and Skyler is showing Walt how much cash he's earned, and the question is how much is enough, right? It's like, at what point do you feel safe? At what point do you feel like, okay, I've accomplished enough where I feel comfortable and I can really work on what I'm passionate in, right? Some people, what they're passionate in is earning more money, and that's cool. I think at a certain point that becomes fruitless, though. I think that without connection to loved ones, without connection to God, it's all pointless. So, that's more what I've been focused on. Have I reached my accumulation apex? Probably not. I mean, if I'd worked the last 5 years, I could have increased my stack significantly. But for me, the trade-off, it was much better for me to spend, my early 30s traveling and hanging out with friends and kind of working on myself and my physical health and all those things. It was way more important for me personally. And so it's a trade-off that every individual makes on a moment by moment point.
So for just that I understood it correct, the accumulation apex is the point where it's really hard to kind of add more Bitcoin, because like every new kind of Satoshi does not really add up a lot when you measure it in Satoshis.
Exactly, yeah. And it comes up to every individual in terms of what they think they can earn, in terms of what they think Bitcoin is worth and will be worth. There's so many different factors. It's not something that anybody can dictate for anybody else. It's like a personal choice. But I think that the incentives are there, and I see it playing out. And I don't know that anybody, well, there's some people kind of talking about it, but I put some words to it that make sense to me personally,
I like it because, I mean, I will just make up a ridiculous example. If you are 45 years old and you have 2,000 Bitcoin and you earn, I don't know, like 50 grand or 60 grand or like 100 grand a year. If you live in Europe like I do and want to buy Bitcoin the right way, check out Relai. Relai is a Bitcoin-only platform with no distractions, no shitcoins, just a BTC. It's also the easiest way I've found to do what actually works: buying Bitcoin on a consistent basis. Relai is also self-custodial. They never have the keys to your Bitcoin. No freezing of your assets, no counterparty risk, no rug pulling whatsoever. I have been a long-term fan of Relai, not only because it's incredible, easy to use and very beginner friendly, but also because it just works. If you want to get started with Relai today, click the link down in the pinned comment or in the description. And once you have downloaded the app, type in Robin in the referral code section of the app to save 10% on fees. So set up your DCA Bitcoin plan today with the Relai app and get cheaper Bitcoin if you use code Robin. With Microseed, you can engrave your 12 or 24 word seed phrase, the entire seed phrase, onto a 1-inch small washer. Yes, just one washer. All 24 words on that one washer. You can hide that thing everywhere. And even better, you don't need to buy a new kit every time you have to get a new wallet. You can make unlimited backups because Microseed is not selling the washer. Microseed is selling the device that stamps the washer. So you get the full kit with the device, with the washers, with the hammer, with everything you need to get started today. And you can make with that unlimited amount of backups. Go now to microseed.io. Finally, we have BTC Prague back in 2026. And this year, I'm not only speaking on a panel, but I'm actually going to present an interesting new angle, a perspective, a Bitcoin thesis at BTC Prague this year for the first time ever. I've never done that on any other conference, so this will be a fun one. If you listen to this show on a regular basis, I would love to meet you in Prague this year. It's very high signal, no noise, and Prague is just a freaking amazing city with awesome drinks and a lot of good food. Use code Robin to get 10% off, and if you buy with Bitcoin, you get an additional 5% off your ticket price. I'll see you there in Prague. Make sure to come say hi. Your salary has literally no impact on on your stack. I mean, the only impact that it has, that you have a cash flow, so you adding to your stack and not subtracting from your stack. But you're 45 years old. Like, you can live a lot of lives with 1,000 Bitcoin. I think so. Even if we crash down another 50%, it's still a lot of money. But I think we'll probably hit. I mean, I don't want to get into speculation if we hit the bottom or not, but I think we are near or closer to a bottom as we were previously. So at those examples of, like, if you have like a huge stack and your income is not tremendous, like, you just are bad off of, if you don't like that job, not doing that job and just doing what you really love and using your time rather than slaving away for someone else.
Right. I mean, there are people who love what they do for work. There are way less of them now than probably there ever have been, maybe. Just because even if you really enjoy the aspect of what you do, just because your company is operating in the fiat economy, everything is going to suck more and more. Your clients, your customers, whatever it is, your suppliers, there's going to be problems in the supply chain. There's going to be political risk and tariffs and all this stuff going on. And it's chaotic. I mean, I was in it for 7 years, and I just saw it progressively getting worse and worse and more chaotic and less functional. And the amount of stress that I was dealing with was my own, but then all the stressed people around me really made my quality of life less enjoyable, I would say, right? And I truly believe that the people we surround ourselves with have a huge impact on our well-being and our futures in terms of our trajectory, you know?
You also wrote me in the notes for today's podcast, don't take the black pill.
Oh, yeah.
What is that in any way, shape, or form related to that? Because I've never heard about the black pill.
Oh, you never heard about the black pill? Okay. Yeah, it's good that I should define it. So the black pill is kind of, it's believing that everything is fucked and there's nothing we can do, basically. That's what it is. And then the white pill is everything's going to be fine. And, you know, things are just going to get better forever. So like a Jeff Booth sort of reality, right? Everybody, it's a yin and yang. Like, everybody's got a little bit of both. But when I talk to people out in the world, one of the biggest differences I notice between Bitcoiners and quote unquote normies is the black pill. A lot of people have just given up. They see themselves sliding into the surveillance panopticon, and they're just going to allow it to happen. Like, oh, I have nothing to hide. I'm just going to, you know, put cameras inside my house so I can watch my dogs. But then they're also going to watch me sleep. I'm going to wear a watch that tracks my biometrics all the time. I'm going to, whatever the thing might be, right? And a lot of that technology is cool, but if the data is collected by somebody else, it's not good. I guess in a way, maybe not worrying about surveillance is kind of a white pill. But to me, that just it's very short-sighted. But in any case, I see it in the Bitcoin community too. People thinking that everything is a psyop, people thinking that everything is screwed. You can't trust anybody simply because you have a certain number of followers. All of a sudden, you're a CIA operative, right? It's like, just because I have a microphone and a webcam, somehow I'm controlled opposition, right? Um, it's it's a really exhausting way to live and think. And yes, I am aware of the conspiracies. Like, I know about the intelligence apparatus interacting with the corporations and the mafia and all this stuff. It's like, I know about it, but what can I do in this exact moment to make my life better and everyone else's life better? Like, that's what I constantly focus on is, can I do anything about that right now in this present moment to make things less crappy? And I think the answer is yes. Like, this week I got my phone back on graphene, and now every app in my phone almost is open source. I think I still have Audible. I like audiobooks, and I'm addicted to the convenience of Audible. But and I really like for the CIA to know what I'm listening to also, because they should realize. No, I don't care. Yeah. So anyway, that just don't take the black pill. Like, don't allow your consciousness to be sucked into a void where everything is screwed.
I really like Saylor's analogy of there are optimists, there are pessimists, and there are alarmists. And I'm a very hopeful optimist. Like, I'm extremely positive always on literally everything. So I might be a little bit rare with that view in Bitcoin. I don't know how rare that is, but I'm super optimistic about almost everything in life, in business, and in like whatever you wanna look at. I like having here and there pessimists around me, because they ground me and they see things and they're like, okay, this can happen, this can happen, this can happen. I choose not to focus on that. I choose to focus on the good thing, even though like everything has, like, I can talk social media, for example, up and down. I can say, yeah, it's a data brokerage. They're just collecting data on you and they're like super bad. Or I can say, now we have a way to speaking out. Newspapers no longer control information that go on public, and we have a way of like voicing our opinions and being an independent journalist, independent voice in the community. So there's like, I can choose to go both ways. I usually choose to be an optimist. And the third character, the alarmist, is the only person that I'm having a little bit of a problem with. This is the person that makes money by fear-mongering other people into weird things of like, oh, it's so bad, this and that. That's why, please buy my product, please buy my service, because otherwise you will be dead. This is kind of like everything will go to bust. So please buy my shit, whatever the thing is. It's a very rough description. That's the only thing I don't like. And I don't care if you're an optimist or pessimist, just don't be an alarmist that makes fear out of nothing just to profit from that fear without really even providing a solid solution. That's the only thing I kind of like don't like about that. And obviously I'm more on the white pill side in that frequency.
Yeah, I think a lot of people buy their own bullshit when it comes to the alarmist stuff. And I think what it stems from is a deeper psychological tendency towards feeling as though something's terrible, right? Like, feeling as though things are bad and I'm responsible for fixing them, or something like the main character syndrome. Um, it's a egoic hang up, right? Which I could really go deep on that in terms of like the psychology and everything and the spiritual clinging and avoidance and all that. But it's just, it's worth paying attention to. What I pay attention to mostly is my nervous system, right? So like, when somebody comes at me with a message and it's super chaotic and aggressive, and my nervous system lights up, I'm like, okay, I have something to work on in myself so that this doesn't bother me anymore. You know, it's like, okay, this topic freaks me out. Why is it freaking me out? I'm going to kind of like introspect and resolve this. And the next time I see that, it's just going to wash over me. Like quantum is a big thing, you know. Like I got worried about quantum, and then I realized that the collective mind of Bitcoiners is actually very bright, and we have some good solutions, or rather, as Gigi's new podcast, no solutions. There are no solutions. There's only trade-offs, and I love that. It's true, but like we have good trade-offs that we can use to kind of pull ourselves out of these traps that are laid in front of us, that are really not existential problems, right? You can choose to make it an existential problem if you want, but you're just going to spin your wheels and burn yourself out.
True. There's this saying, I have no clue where it comes from or where I actually heard it from. But there's a saying, if you see 10 problems running down the street, 9 of them will run themselves away from the street before they come to you. And this one problem you have to deal with. And so I think we should not worry about problems that might not even be there. There's also, I just talked about, I forgot the word again, but there's a word for if the cure or the solution is worse than the problem. And this can be the case. Like if you're so fearful about quantum right now, and we are now implementing a solution that fixed the quantum problem, we might bring up another problem with that's even worse, and maybe the quantum thing is not there for another 20 years, or maybe not coming anyways. I'm not enough of an expert to speak on that really, but yeah, I'm sharing your optimism. Like we have a really great people in Bitcoin, like really solid, smart minds that I'm like, I feel very safe that this all will be working out very nicely.
Yeah, I think so too. I have some concerns about, I guess, some voices being heard more than others, specifically on X. I mean, I don't go on X. I only use Nostr, but it seems like a lot of initially there was like a big divide between Nostr and X, but now there's a lot of crossover, and we're getting more of the X drama falling into Nostr, and I would prefer it wasn't like that, because I just don't need it. But I follow. So I talked to somebody recently at a what was it, a trade show, and he was so black-pilled, and I just started to like internalize some of what he was saying, and I realized that, I don't know, it was a really dark reality that he lives in. Like he was an XRP person, and he was an XRP person specifically because he thought the government and the banks are going to win. And I said, well, you know, if that is to happen, it's going to happen based on human ingenuity that's happening right now. So why do you want to participate in a system that you don't actually want to come about? Right? It's like, okay, maybe the probability is leaning in that direction through your worldview, but do you really want to reinforce it with your actions? That seems like a really stupid thing to do. And then I pulled up Nostr, and everything was so positive. It was like people working on projects. You know, Nostr is now the protocol with more clients than users, which is like hilarious and silly, but it's great because people are learning things as they're hacking around and trying stuff. And it's like really low bar. If you fail with a Nostr project and it goes to nobody uses it, it doesn't matter. You probably learned something, right? And on the next iteration, you're going to end up building something better, hopefully. And what I would like to see is more people coordinating to build things together, rather than everybody running off and doing their own thing, right? Because they say something like organizing anarchists is like herding cats or something like that. You can't get them to coordinate around anything. But in the long run, I think that'll sort itself out. It just needs a certain critical mass.
I'm curious about one thing that came up, because we talked about Bitcoin being priced in gold, and a lot of people compare Bitcoin and gold and make that comparison and like how Bitcoin will be as big as gold and then bigger as gold and all of that. I feel like we should have a different target. Gold is like an obvious one, obviously, because of the history and the money, and I think Cypher also really influenced a lot of the direction that like we see it that way. But I see real estate as the even bigger story. And I say that because if you look at how much money is there in gold versus real estate has roughly 10x, a little bit more than that, money in there. It's like 30 trillion against like almost 370 trillion or something like that. So there's a lot of money in real estate, and real estate is, in my opinion, even worse of an asset than gold. I mean, if you just want to buy your own home and live in there, like that's fine with me. Like that's a solid move, building a family and roots and everything like that. But most of the real estate market isn't big because people want to own their own home. It's big because people own the third home, leave it empty, mark it up, and all of those things, or commercial real estate. And like, there's a lot of things going wrong. How do you look at Bitcoin compared to real estate, or like capturing the real estate market, and that actually being the more interesting target for Bitcoiners, because it's so clear that real estate has nothing going for them against Bitcoin except maybe the leverage opportunities.
Right. Yeah. So I got a bunch of thoughts on that. The first one is Cedric Yogelman. Years ago, I think this was like 2018, 2019. I heard him on a podcast with somebody else. I don't remember who it was, or is it Youngelman? I think it's Youngelman. Anyway, the Bitcoin Matrix podcast. So he said, you should not be thinking about your house as an asset or a savings account. You should be thinking of it through its utility, what you use it for. Like a house is a place where you live. It's not where you store your money. And at the time, I kind of got pissed because I was like, but that's how I think about my house. I think about it like it's my retirement account, because I had very like boomer mentality about my house. And I had bought it as an investment. And then over time, that message really sunk in a way that has changed my whole life. And there was a time when I was considering buying a second property and then renting one out and whatever and all this stuff. And I would have had property taxes. I would have had, I would have been locked to a geographic location and all these things. And I'm so glad that I didn't do that personally. In comparing Bitcoin and real estate, it's a little bit tricky because of how the real estate market works with loans, because it's so tied to fiat. And gold and real estate are very different assets when you're looking at the global monetary system, right? And I think that real estate is a much higher risk than gold. And historically, that has been the case. But in the event that the real estate market starts to tank in fiat terms, gold will take up a lot of that. Whereas I wouldn't expect the other way around. Like I wouldn't think necessarily that gold tanking would add to the real estate bubble, but it is a huge bubble. And it's often referred to as land banking. And then when you take out loans and then the fiat inflation increases, then you get this inflation-induced debt destruction. So it's really a fiat phenomenon. And I think that we need to focus on that. Or okay, when I say we need, I don't like it actually. It's I focus on that. You can choose to focus on that if you want. I focus on that because obviously real estate has practical use, but much of what the investment people are doing in real estate right now is not about practical use. It's about rent seeking. And that is pricing people out of homes, and it's leading to just mass devastation. It's not going to last probably, but it's really hard to predict what's going to happen, because if we do experience hyperinflation in the dollar, real estate is going to run like crazy. A lot of people aren't ready to consider Bitcoin. A lot of people aren't ready to consider sound money at all. And real estate's going to soak up a lot of what people don't want to put in the stock market during that time. So I see it as a minor boss. Like if we're playing a video game, this is like boss number 8 or 9, but 10 is gold, in my opinion. And I see it that way because of the history of what gold represents, and the fact that Bitcoin and gold are both monetary assets. Whereas land has always been more of a utility function,
The most important thing for your Bitcoin journey is not buying Bitcoin, but it's how to keep them. And yes, you have maybe the right tools, but how do you actually go ahead and stick it all together so it's the most secure for you personally? Self-custody is a deeply personalized journey, and the Bitcoin way is helping you exactly finding that correct setup for you personally. They are also helping you with securing your own cybersecurity. And if you want to go one step above all that, you can even get a consultation for a Plan B residency. Go to thebitcoinway.com/Robin and you will get a 30-minute free consultation. I finally and officially mine Bitcoin. This is not just something to stack more Satoshis, but it's most importantly also to support the network. Individual miners are the ones that keep the Bitcoin network decentralized. And by the way, you get KYC free Bitcoin. That's why I use Simple Mining. I get an actual proper Bitcoin miner. They set it up for me. They repair it if it breaks down. And most importantly, they let me choose the pool and even connect my own full node. I'm completely sovereign and I'm completely in control, and I can sign up with Ocean, no account needed. I just give them a Bitcoin address and then there's mining going on. No KYC, nothing. So if you're ready to mine Bitcoin, go to simplemining.io, tell them you come from Robin, and let's mine Bitcoin together. I want to bring that up from Jesse Myers because it's one of the most shown graphs probably in all of Bitcoin. This chart one, and this one actually was the one that kind of opened my eyes to the real estate market. This is the one that also has the strategy pumps on there. Wasn't my intention, but it's just the one that he pinned to his profile. If you look here, my personal opinion is that Bitcoin will over a long period of time will suck up most of the monetary premium of most of the assets. And the question is like, okay, what will it suck up first? I asked that multiple people already. I like Larry's answer, like Larry Lepard's answer to that. He immediately said bonds. That's the one like that makes the least amount of sense. And now with actual instruments like the strikes and the stripes, like as we also see it now here, they are exactly targeting this region. Is like the $300 trillion market. For me, my personal favorite that I like to look at is actually real estate because it's the biggest one, and I just like don't see a value of real estate being that big. Maybe it's always hard to see how much monetary premium is in real estate versus the actual utility value. And equities and gold, I think, are the hardest ones. Like those are probably like the end bosses somehow, because equities can adopt Bitcoin. Equities then can also be a productive enterprise that benefits from rising prices and all of that. So equities and gold is kind of, for me, my two end bosses when it comes to it having monetary premium on top of the utility value.
Jesse Myers, interesting. Croesus. So yeah, I remember back when he was a NIM and I was following him. So now we know his name. That's cool. I did the same thing, same journey of being anonymous and then not anymore. Yeah, I mean, it's all fake, right? So like we know that the measuring that they're using to measure these dollar values is false. And some people realize that and other people don't. So it's just all of this can change in a very short period of time. As I said earlier, it's all based on perception. I mean, okay, like I said earlier, also the boomers, they see their houses as a savings account, but the millennials don't have the money to buy those houses, so it's not a savings account if there's no buyer for the asset, So that's where the 100-year mortgages come in. You know what I think is actually going to change this a lot is a mortgage backed by Bitcoin, because it's going to it's going to create a straw between Bitcoin and the real estate market, where we can milkshake them. I'm probably not going to play that game personally, maybe a little bit. I'm not, but some people are going to go hard, because you can do the speculative attack that Saylor's doing, but you can do it with real estate. You can just use your Bitcoin, buy real estate, take out loans against the real estate, and just keep going. And when that comes into play and it starts to grow, some people will do it well. Some people will wipe themselves out. It's just like with the Bitcoin backed loans. You have to do it conservatively, but this is how this is how Trump got rich. I mean, this is how a lot of these big money guys got rich, is by playing the mortgage arbitrage or debt arbitrage. And if you read it's not The Dying of Money, it's When Money Dies. It's about the Weimar inflation. And it talked about how the people who had access to debt were the ones who really cleaned up in the hyperinflation. And I don't really know what's going to happen. But right now it seems like the banks are adopting Bitcoin in a very big way, and they're going to want to hold it for people. And some people, yeah, there we go. And some people don't want to hold on to it, and whatever, that's their choice. But some people are going to play that game very well, and they're going to utilize their Bitcoin. They're going to leverage it, and they're going to buy up tremendous amounts of property. It's not necessarily ethical or good or anything like that. It's just a reality of the financial situation, and that's what's going to happen.
That's I think someone else before already told me about that book, and I've never got it, but I really should. Like that looks really cool.
It's not a fun read, but it's historically educational.
Yeah, nice. That's really interesting. That got me off my track. Sorry, When Money Dies. It looks like a book I should check out. And yeah, I'm also an Audible fan. But most of the books you can also find on other platforms. But like Audible makes it really easy for people, I think.
Yeah, I was getting them in other places, and then I don't know. I'd like to get back to something that's more open source, something that rewards the authors more. But we'll get there at some point.
Real estate is also interesting because we see it now. I mean, there are services like, I think, Horizon, Savannah, probably like 10 others that I don't even know about, that just offer that. Like Bitcoin is saying like, hey, you have a home, let's get the home value. You keep the home and you get some Bitcoin exposure. Like there's like a lot of services that do that. You can also just get a loan against your home and just buy the Bitcoin yourself. Then there's things like Grant Cardone, which is a funny example, I think, that combines real estate with Bitcoin. I think he understands slowly the value of Bitcoin. But of course, he can't just dump like 5 billion worth of real estate on the market and just put it into Bitcoin, even though I think it would be the best move. But that, like, you see it already happening, the real estate versus Bitcoin kind of trade.
Yeah, that's also Leon Vonkum over there in Germany. Yeah, he was spearheading that before I heard anybody else talking about it. But yeah, Grant recently went on the podcast, the Sovereign Business podcast with Brandon, and he's still kind of in his like early phase of, he's on the fence between Bitcoin and crypto. He'll figure it out eventually. There's a total frequency shift there.
Yeah, you need this early phase, and I think we often overestimate how far we are. Like how many people truly understand Bitcoin, how many people truly get what Bitcoin is, And then how many people hold some portion of Bitcoin in self-custody? It's not a lot of people. It's like very few people. Go on the street, ask 200 people, do you have Bitcoin in self-custody? I would be surprised if you get like 2 answers, yes.
Right. Yeah. It depends where you are, but certainly less than 1% of the planet, and probably less than 0.001 would be my guess. And when I think about the distribution, I mean, it's not great. It's part of the reason I like the idea of spending and replacing and like circulating Bitcoin, because a lot of people are just sitting on it. I like to spend it whenever I can. So I seek out businesses that accept Bitcoin. And if a business is local and they accept Bitcoin, I make sure to spend Bitcoin there in particular. And so like there's apps now where you can like spend from your dollar balance. So it's not a taxable event. There's all kinds of tools being built out at the moment, which are great. But yeah, I was recently at a trade show with Brandon. I'm working with Sovereign now as a Bitcoin consultant. And it was literally the meme, right? We're sitting in our booth. We have a big Bitcoin logo behind us. And we had a very small number of people come up to talk to us, right? And so if the price was at 700K instead of 70K, we would have had a line out the door. And I was sitting there laughing because we were living the meme, you know. Nobody cares when the price is low, and it is what it is. It's an opportunity for those who see it.
Because of the podcast, I see a lot of businesses. I'm in contact with a lot of businesses, not just the partners, the official sponsorship partners that I have, but like beyond that. And what I really see is it actually hits people. Like it actually hits businesses in Bitcoin a lot. Like it's not like, oh, the price is down. Oh, okay. No, like revenue is down, profit is down, the balance is down. Like it's a big thing in the Bitcoin community. It's my first bear market as a podcaster. That's why I'm like, oh, all the things that I've heard the last 6 years, it's actually just happening as everyone was telling me last 6 years. When I listen to podcasts, now I experience it and see the people that actually run the businesses and work in those Bitcoin companies.
Yeah, it's not easy. I mean, I just saw Unchained laid off half their sales team, you know. So it's not easy. Working in Bitcoin is if you're not at your accumulation apex, you're in for a rough ride for sure. You know, it is what it is. And a lot of people, they once they understand Bitcoin, they get to that first point, they're like, oh, all I want to do is work in Bitcoin. But you don't really have to work in Bitcoin in order to work in Bitcoin. Literally anything you do that's good is you working in Bitcoin, as long as you're stacking sats, you know? So if you're good at something, go out and do that and stack sats. You're a plumber, electrician, whatever it is that you do. Sell cars, who knows? Just keep doing that for as long as you possibly can. The jobs will come, but it's going to require skilled individuals who already are good at certain things and aren't just strictly Bitcoiners, right? If all you are is a Bitcoiner and you think that's like your value proposition, go out and, you know, orange pill people. Do something. Do something to add value to the network.
Unchained, did that actually? I've not heard about that. That's crazy. Half the stuff.
I might not have been at liberty to say that, but yeah, I heard it from somebody who was working there. So.
Oh, okay. So it's an inside.
It is what it is. It's not inside info. I mean, it did happen. So, you know, but it's just like, there's nothing bad on Unchained. Like, I know Joe Kelly, he's a great guy. He and his wife are fantastic. And I know a bunch of people, the team over there. I use them. I have other friends that use them. I love Unchained. It's just an indication of like some of the strongest companies in the space are having a hard time right now because of the price action. So it is what it is. And it has nothing to do with the fundamental value of Bitcoin. It has to do with the perception, the public perception. Here in the US, there was a study recently where it was kind of a crypto market study. And it said 20% of the US, quote unquote, owns crypto. I mean, obviously there's a lot in there. I'd like to ask more questions, you know. Do they own Bitcoin? Do they own it in self-custody? Do they leave it on the exchange? Like, what service are they using to buy it? All these questions, right? But let's just say 20% of people own crypto. There's another 20% of people who are curious about crypto. They don't own any, but they are interested to learn. And then there's a 60% that doesn't care at all. They have no interest. They're emotionally opposed, right? So I'm going to ignore that side. Look at the other 40%. How do I orange pill the first 20%? And then how do I educate the next 20%? And what I've found is that these groups of people are totally different from each other. So the first 20% of people who bought Bitcoin and crypto were adventurous. They were interested in learning things. They might value freedom over safety, right? And that's like a very particular segment of the population. The next 20% is not like that. They're intellectually curious, but they're financially conservative. And so what these people want is safety, security. They're not that interested in sovereignty. And so sometimes when Bitcoiners come at other people and they're like, you have to have no KYC, self-custody, run your own node, doesn't matter how much Bitcoin you own. If you have $10 worth of Bitcoin, you have to have a multi-sig, and it's like, okay, yeah, all of us are a little autistic, but like, come on, just be realistic with people. There's a point at which that will make sense, but it's not from zero. You know what I mean? So people have to get off zero first, and not everybody's ready for a multi-sig setup right off the bat.
It's also a cost question. Like, honestly, like right. like I couldn't be more self-custody focused, but let's say you have like $1,000 in Bitcoin. Do you really want to spend like $500 or $800 on a custody setup? Like this doesn't make sense. So no. Or like spending like $2,000 a month for like a service like Unchained or something like that. I don't know what the cost structure is, but like you cannot spend like 50% of your stack just to secure your stack, because then your stack will be gone very soon. Like that does not make sense. And so I am, for example, also a fan of, if you don't have that big of a stack, maybe you are okay on exchanges. Maybe you are okay with leaving it on a hot wallet on your phone, or like not doing something crazy with it. Maybe just like doing it yourself because you can just get like, okay, I'm biased. Like I'm selling those Microseed things, but you can do this. You can buy those punches at Amazon for like almost nothing. Get somewhere a piece of metal, and get your hammer that you anyways have at home, and punch your seed phrase in some kind of metal. Like obviously I'm biased. I want you to buy this thing, but like you don't have to buy this thing. You can just literally go ahead and take some metal, buy those punches of Amazon, and punch your thing. Or like you can even, if you really want to go cheap, get a screwdriver that you anyways have at home, get a piece of metal and scrape it in somehow. You don't need to spend money, just don't leave it on paper. And so right. Also custody does not need to be expensive, but 100%, like don't spend a ridiculous amount of money to secure. Like 1% of your stack might be a good amount to like see if you have, I don't know, 100K in Bitcoin and you spend like $500 to $1,000. Seems more reasonable, but not like, don't spend 800 if you have like 2,000 in there.
Right. Yeah. I have one of those too. They're great. Yeah, they're really flexible to do different things with. I know the CEO; he's a good guy. Yeah. So I mean, of course, if I talk to somebody and they tell me they own Bitcoin, the first thing I do is I start asking them questions to get closer to, like, do they need self-custody? And usually the first thing I say is, and I don't ask them their stack, but I'll say, okay, just so that you know where I'm coming from, I think that if you have more than, I don't know, $5,000 worth of Bitcoin, you need to take self-custody of that. I would even move the bar lower, but oftentimes I run into people who do have more than $5,000, more than $10,000, even more than $100,000, and they haven't taken self-custody yet. And from there, then we start a conversation about like, okay, well, how would you do this responsibly and safely and all that, right? But sometimes Bitcoiners jump on people and they tell them, you know, from that, like it's a black and white issue, like you need to take self-custody right away. And for me, I think that freaks people out and it just creates barriers to entry. I know it's well-meaning because it is important, but there are stages to this. It doesn't go from 0 to 100, you know. And I can hear that you get exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely. It's you need a very, and you know, like there is a lot of like self-custody or like custody of your Bitcoin in general is a very discussed topic, and also one that people have a lot of emotions with it, because I think every person in Bitcoin has their own custody setup. And if then someone else is saying something bad about their custody setup without even knowing he has it, he feels attacked. He feels, and it kind of rubs on our own insecurities of like, oh wait, he says I need to do this and this, like, oh, I don't do this, like I don't need that, like you don't know what you're talking about. So I don't know, there is some weird emotional aspect with custody and how you do it and all of those, because everyone does it his or her own way, and so they feel attacked if someone is saying like, oh, you need this. Like if I say, don't write your seed phrase on paper, otherwise you're an idiot, everyone that listens to that and writes it on a piece of paper just heard I'm an idiot. So like obviously they feel offended and like they want to do something. So I think sometimes we also communicate a little bit too aggressively.
Yeah, for sure. The first time I ever went to a Bitcoin conference, I was like ready to debate and potentially fight every person I interacted with, right? Because like the way that I grew up in Bitcoin was on Twitter. And guys say shit like that all the time and they don't think at all. Oftentimes, number one, those tweets are sent out from a place of insecurity, right? If you feel the need to call somebody else an idiot, that's your own ego, right? And then the other side is receiving that. Oh, that person is saying that I'm an idiot, me personally, because I wrote it on paper. That's an ego thing too. So it's like, just take your ego out of it. It's not personal. There's no need to attack anybody. There's no need to convince other people, you know, they're not going to listen if you do that, right? So I think it is important to explain to people the importance of self-custody, right? All the Bitcoiners were saying, take your Bitcoin off the exchange the whole time that FTX was happening, and nobody listened. Why? I think in large part, it's because of the way the message was coming across. I don't talk to people like that because it's not effective, right? So if you're going to talk to people like that, you might as well just shut up because it's not going to do anything good. If you want to accomplish something, you can approach it in a way which actually gets you where you want to go. But otherwise, like, why even say it, you know?
I also think so. I have one more topic that you were writing down, which fits perfectly into our discussion in like being in Bitcoin and like being someone with the sovereignness or with the consultant things in there. You wrote down working in Bitcoin versus working for Bitcoin. What do you mean by that?
Right. So it's very similar to what I was saying earlier about, you know, when you're working, when you realize the importance of Bitcoin and you go out and you earn dollars and buy more Bitcoin, that's one thing. But then when you decide I'm going to leave the fiat world and I'm going to work in Bitcoin, it's like, then ideally you will have already reached your accumulation apex, because I think a lot of people underestimate the volatility of what it's like working in Bitcoin, like working exclusively in Bitcoin. You better be at a point of personal post scarcity, right? It's like if you reach a point where you think, you know what, like I'm fiat retired, I don't give a shit about the fiat system anymore, and I'm just going to do my own thing from now on, then that's great. Go out and do everything that you're passionate about. From that point, I think from that point, a renaissance begins, really. When not everybody, gradually everybody, hopefully, right? I don't actually know, but I do know a lot of people who adopted Bitcoin, who now live in a reality where all they do is stuff that they care about personally. And that's a great world. I would prefer for that to be the reality for everybody. It's unfortunately not the case, and increasingly less the case when you save in dollars, but increasingly more the case when you save in Bitcoin. So that was what I wanted to say about that.
I work now since a little over 2 years in Bitcoin fully. And I started working to achieve something in Bitcoin over 3 years, like 3.5 years already. It just took me 1.5 years to like go outside of the fiat system, outside of my work environment that I was in before. And I recently on a live stream got the question, do you think you would have earned more Satoshis if you would have stayed in your fiat job? And I was actually thinking about that because I never really did that calculation. I'm like, that's not a question that crossed my mind beforehand, because I just didn't care about, first of all, I don't care about eventualities that anyways did not happen. And
Right.
obviously I'm now a lot more happy and fulfilled being in Bitcoin. It almost feels like I'm retired, but I'm still earning. So I would never change back to what I was doing before, even though I liked what I was doing before also. But I did, after the live stream, actually the calculation, and I was like, oh yeah, I missed out on a lot of Bitcoin, not Bitcoin, a lot of Satoshis. I missed out on a lot of gains because I left a job that I was already working 6 years in, was safe. The company's still around. It's a good paying job. And I had to start from scratch, pay a lot of things up front, have a good amount of revenue, but then like there's a lot of costs also coming with that. And just like the hurdle of starting a business. I mean, I'm now in the 3rd year of running basically a small media startup. I don't sell any real product outside of like attention, I guess, to other companies. And so it's a real hard thing to do in general, and even more so in Bitcoin. And so I would suggest, if you're just looking at it from a pure economic perspective, it's probably best if you keep your job. If you look from fulfillment perspective, like I'm like 1,000 times happier now. So like,
Right. Yeah.
I'm fine with having a little less purchasing power and having all my life to myself. Like it's a very personal decision that you have to take, but don't think, oh yeah, I'm gonna do in Bitcoin, I'm earning a lot, I get the Bitcoin directly in my wallet, and I will be like amazing, and I work only with cool people. There are trade-offs. Like that's, as you said before, there are no solutions. There's only trade-offs.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's it. That's exactly the point. Perfect example.
Really cool. We have an end routine in the podcast as we're coming closer to the end of our time here, where the previous guest is asking a question for the next guest without knowing who the next guest actually is. And the previous guest asked you the question, what do you do to educate young people in how to think critically and how to build out a peaceful Bitcoin future?
Oh, it's beautiful. That's a great question. Can you tell me who asked it?
Oh yeah, Darren Epstein. He's I think American Exile on Twitter.
Okay.
He's a great guy. Like he was also already the 3rd time on the podcast, and we just recorded like 2 hours and 20 minutes or so together. He's a really cool dude.
Nice. I really like that question. I don't know him yet, but yeah, what do I do to educate young people on critical thinking? Specifically about Bitcoin, or just general critical thinking?
I think critical thinking in general, then specifically like a peaceful Bitcoin future. But like critical thing, we were talking about how important critical thinking is to everything we do.
Right. Yeah. So I saw a note from American Hodl recently that he said, when I'm raising my kids, I challenge them to challenge me, or something like that. It was like challenge everybody, even me, even my authority, right? And And the great geek guy came out and he said that was a gay take, and like that you're supposed to be the, you know, patriarchal authority in the house or whatever, and that's the Christian way. And I was like, okay, I see both their perspectives, but personally, I think it's really important to train kids to question everything, including the parents, but only up to a degree where they're still safe, right? And so I read John Taylor Gatto a few years ago, and he writes about the American education system, the public schooling system, and how basically what it does is it indoctrinates children out of critical thinking, which is, I think, an inherent human ability. It's kind of almost what makes us human, is our ability to think critically. It's like a core aspect of our consciousness, and our schools are actually designed, and he breaks it down piece by piece, designed to undo that or to indoctrinate us out of it. And so I really advocate for homeschooling, micro schooling, group schooling, private schooling. Like, get your kids out of that system, because it was built in a way that was to, initially it was for the Prussian military, and then it was for the factories, and then it was for the offices, and now I don't know what they're preparing these kids for, you know, because like the offices aren't going to be there in 20 or 30 years. It's just all of that stuff can be automated. And so I really encourage parents to consider homeschooling. Homeschooling's not for everybody, right? But there are lots of new models that are being built. And so I spend a lot of time thinking about this and talking to my friends who are parents. And I'm writing a book that's going to have an element of this in it. It's very important to me. Critical thinking is not incentivized enough in our culture, and I think that it's an essential element in our progress as a species. Like, we need the critical thinking. It's the fundamental basics of asking questions is like the philosophical root. Why are things the way they are? Do they have to remain that way? Like, these are very, very easy, essential questions that a lot of people just skip right over. And a lot of Bitcoiners, I think, do a good job with it, right? It's like, well, okay, the dollar is like this. Well, why is it like that? Right? So it's, Bitcoiners are like critical thinking addicts in a lot of cases. And then in a lot of other cases, they're not, you know, and they just follow along with their favorite influencer. But that doesn't last forever. Eventually you realize that you got to think for yourself all the time.
Slay your heroes, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Really cool. I love that answer. It's critical thinking, and it's also hard. I want to just give that perspective because even if you always try that, sometimes it's really hard to always stay on a critical thinking perspective, because there are things coming towards you that you just take in as granted and you don't even think about them. Like, they are coming in a very subtle way into your consciousness, and you save them. And then someone is like, oh, why do you have to believe in? You're like, oh, shit. I never actually thought about that. Like, why do I think that? Why is that my belief? So I catch myself often with that. Oh, I actually don't know why I believe that. Like, it somehow came in my consciousness and I accepted it without even knowing.
Right. Well, as long as you have the humility to acknowledge that, then you're in a really good spot, because a lot of people don't.
Yeah, it comes back to ego. We're closing the loop with Jeff Booth, ego death.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's a perfect way to get to the end of the podcast. Before I let you go, where can people find you, ask you questions, and reach out to you?
Yeah, so I'm on Nostr at Sourcenode. I only use Nostr, and I try to use as much open source tech as I possibly can. So come and hang out, you know, send some zaps. Wisp is a up and coming Nostr client that I'm enjoying. It's on Android. If you're using an iPhone, considering switching off is probably a good idea. Yeah, look into graphene.
What an amazing end message. Thank you so much, Sourcenode, for being on the podcast and delighting us with a lot of cool insights, as always. And also thank you so much for everyone that is watching and listening, for joining us today. As always, I'll be back. This content is for educational and entertainment purposes only and does not constitute financial advice.